So, though I was recently traumatized, I was traumatized at a point in my life where I had all the tools to work through it. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Dominique Davis, also known as Brown M. Benby, and here on this channel we practice flexibility of the mind, the body, and the spirit. Today's video is about a subject that I am learning more and more about every day. If you experience it, you'll be learning more and more about it as your days go by. I'm talking about the dark night of the soul. If you are into law of attraction, if you are into spirituality, you may have heard of a man called Eckhart Tolle. He did not invent the dark night of the soul, but he has a beautiful explanation as to what it is, so his name does come up when you research it. But basically, the dark night of the soul is a point in time where previous beliefs and a previous understanding of reality no longer works for an individual. So because the previous beliefs no longer work, the individual may be left with a sense of confusion alongside of alongside of a feeling of stillness, because the individual does not really know which way to move. And that's how I explain it. I'm going to read Eckhart Tolle's definition of it now, just so you can see like the difference in definitions, and then we're going to really talk about what this means for you. According to Eckhart Tolle, the dark night of the soul is a term used to describe what one could call a collapse of a perceived meaning in life, an eruption into your life of a deep sense of meaninglessness. The inner state in some cases is very close to what is conventionally called depression. Nothing makes sense anymore. There's no purpose to anything. So I'm going to break down the dark night of the soul first by talking to you guys about my experience. I'm going to say first and foremost, I'm not going to be sharing any of my personal business. I'm not going to be sharing exactly what happened to me. And I think that that is actually a very important part of the dark night of the soul. If you are experiencing it, if it comes up, a lot of times it is triggered by your worst trauma, the thing that you fear the most in life. So if you're experiencing it, it's very likely that you do not want to talk about it, that you would not talk about it with other people, because it is an experience that is so personal to you that only you really have an understanding of, that you don't really feel like you have the breath capacity to explain it to other people. And it's just very personal, you know? So, but I will tell you about how I went through the experience without sharing exactly what happened. So the dark night of the soul for me was definitely the best part and the worst part of my life. I was basically put into a situation where I was forced to confront a lifelong trauma head on. This is a trauma that I've dealt with since birth, literally since birth. And it was something that I hid from everyone, and it was hard. It was hard. And when I was forced to confront it head on, I was re-traumatized, which sucks. So it went from being something that, you know, I had experienced all through my childhood and into my adult life, but I had learned how to deal with it and push it away and bury it and, you know, not worry about it, to being re-traumatized where it was thrown into my face. Therefore, when you're traumatized, you know, you create this brain pattern. So you can try to be normal, you can try to go on with your life, but the thought keeps coming and keeps reminding you that, hey, this just happened. hey, you're uncomfortable. Hey, life is falling apart, you know? So I was re-traumatized. But the beauty of when all of this happened and why it was the most beautiful part of my life was because after being re-traumatized, this recently happened. This happened last November. So though I was recently traumatized, I was traumatized at a point in my life where I had all the tools to work through it. I had been studying law of attraction for 2 years at that point. So even though I was very uncomfortable and I was shook, for lack of a better way to put it. Like, I was just very like, what is life? Why is this happening? Like, why am I being forced to think about something that doesn't promote where I want to be and honestly just makes me feel bad? Why is this happening? You know, even though that was where my brain was, I had all the tools I needed to work through it. And I think that's the beauty of the dark night of the soul. I think it happens to everyone going through a spiritual awakening, because I think that's just how law of attraction works. When your vibration is rising, because your vibration's been in a specific place for a certain amount of time, maybe your whole life, when it rises, there is resistance. There will be circumstances that happen outside of you to keep your vibration in the same place. So I think that when you're on a spiritual journey and your vibration is accelerating so quickly, there are just going to be circumstances that happen that make you look inside of yourself and see how much you really have grown. So I was given all the tools I needed, and I worked through this re-traumatization. I'm 100% sure I made that word up. But while working through it, I realized that I knew a lot of people, I think, do know what their biggest trauma is. They just don't think about it because they don't want to. But when it happened, I knew. I was like, this is one of my big things. I'm going to need to take care of myself, and I'm going to need to take care of my thought process and be very careful with how I deal with this. And through knowing that, when I worked through this, it made me realize that this trauma, this scary monster that's lived in my head all these years, for 26 years, this terrifying monster, was nothing more than what I'd made it into. And realizing that, it was very sobering, but it was also very confusing, because it was a realization of how strong our brains are. It was a realization of how we as individuals control our lives through our perception, because I was really able to see in real time how something I was so scared of, how something that could make me cry like that for years, was actually something that is just real life, and it's just an experience. And I added the emotion to it. I added the bad energy to it. No one else did. It was me. So realizing how much power my brain had, kind of made me step back and say, you know, I don't want to think. I don't want to, I don't want to try to figure this out anymore. I don't want to try to grow anymore. I just want to be still, because I was so overwhelmed with how something that had been so scary for such a long time now has no effect on me. That was just so mind-blowing that I didn't really know what to fear anymore. I didn't know what to run away from anymore. Like, how many of my fears were just things that I decided were scary. Everyone's experience with the dark night of the soul is different. Everyone's. You can watch videos of people's different experiences, but yours will probably be different from theirs. I can give you some hints as to whether you are going through yours, and maybe it'll help. But I think the only person who really knows is you. So one clue that you are experiencing a dark night of the soul is a triggering event. Something happens to you that brings out all of your worst fears, all of your worst anxieties, all of the things that you work hard to not think about and not acknowledge in your everyday life. Something happens that forces you to acknowledge and look at that part of yourself. Another sign that you may be experiencing a dark night of the soul is this feeling of no direction. I am a very driven person. I am a very proactive person. I work on my dreams and my goals every single day of my life. But when I was going through this time, it was so emotionally overwhelming for me that I didn't feel lazy. I didn't feel like I didn't want to do anything, but I just didn't feel as though I was equipped to make decisions. I felt a very overwhelming feeling of stillness. Like I didn't want to move forward or backwards, left or right. Like I just wanted to be still so I could get a grasp on what was actually happening. Another sign that you may be going through a dark night of the soul is that you are interpreting memories differently. Like I said, my trauma was something that I have dealt with since birth. It was something that was constantly in my life. I have a lot of memories that have to do with it. So when I was after I was re-traumatized and when I was working through it, memories would come up. Oh my God, I wouldn't even be trying to think of stuff, but these memories would come up from when I was really, really young and dealing with these situations. But I would remember not feeling my stomach drop. I know a lot of people can relate to that. When you think of something traumatizing, when you think of something that's really painful, you get like that feeling in the pit of your stomach, and like all of a sudden your heart rate goes up, and you feel a tightness in your chest. I noticed that as these memories were coming up, I wasn't getting any of these physical reactions. And when these memories came up, I could observe them and even articulate them. When before, if these memories came up, I would just shut down and have no control over how I emotionally reacted to the memory. And the last sign you may be going through a dark night of the soul is that you are releasing resistance. So the dark night of the soul was definitely the part of my law of attraction journey where like manifestations just started falling from the sky. Like it was constant. It still is constant and it's beautiful. But it was a painful it was a painful journey getting there, okay? It was. And when you go through yours, like I said, it'll be the best and the worst time of your life. When I was going through my dark night of the soul, because I was dealing with my shadow side, that's pretty much what the dark night of the soul is, dealing with your shadow side. Usually we deal with our shadow side in increments, like we let it come out when we want. Our shadow side actually takes the wheel during the dark night of the soul, in my opinion. Like our light, it's still there and it's still prominent. It's still prominent. It's still making the decisions. It still has control. But the shadow side is the one that is bringing up our memories and bringing up, our mood and our emotions, and like our shadow side is what's controlling our conscious activity, if that makes sense. If you want me to expand, just leave a comment. So because my shadow side was at the wheel and all of a sudden all the things I was always afraid of were so prominent in my mind, I realized that this was my worst fear. This was my worst fear. What had happened, me being re-traumatized, that was what had happened, was my worst fear. It was the thing that I had always been afraid of. So when that happened and I survived it, and then I was working through the memory of it and I was okay, I realized that there's no such thing as the big bad wolf. There's no such thing. And when I realized that, at the age of 26, I realized that, I guess this is very similar to the first thing I said. I realized that I created everything that I was afraid of. So knowing that, it was very easy for me to say, okay, brain, okay, ego, I love you. You made me me, but you don't have all the answers. Sometimes you got all the problems, but you don't have all the answers. There are answers outside of me. There are answers within experiences and within the world. So realizing that helped me let go. It helped me let go of all the responsibility I was putting on myself to pursue my dreams and make my dreams come true. Because before this experience, I was so scared of everything. I was so scared of, and like, it's not really something that's on the surface level. It's not. But when you are controlled by a trauma, when you are controlled by something dark, it comes out in everything. It comes out in all of your decisions. It comes out in it comes out in your perception of people and experiences. That's the horrible thing about trauma. So after working through that, I realized that life can happen and life will happen. And when life happens, I'm still gonna be okay. And realizing that I'm still gonna be okay gave me the peace to just say, universe, I'm gonna keep intending and I'm gonna keep doing what I do. But however you wanna bring things to me, I'm here. I'm here. I'll take it as you bring it. And otherwise, I'll just be doing what makes me happy from day to day and living a relatively simple life otherwise. And I never had a freedom to think that way before my dark night of the soul. So, yes. All in all, the dark night of the soul allows you to witness your own suffering. It allows you to understand your suffering and where it comes from. The beautiful thing about it is that when you observe your suffering and you see where it comes from, you can see the type of person it's turned you into and just how every single bad thing that's happened to you has made you into exactly who you are. And the beautiful thing about the dark night of the soul is that it gives you permission to release it. You see it. You see who you are. You see the beautiful person that you've become here and now and why you've gone through what you've gone through. But now you can release it because you've learned the lesson, you've grown into the person. Now you can be who you want to be without that pain, without that fear, without those thoughts, because you've taken this time to consciously work through it. All right, you guys, that's all I have for today's video. I hope that you did enjoy it because I had a lot of fun making it. If you would like me to expand on anything that you heard in this video, let me know down below and I will be happy to expand in the comments. If you liked this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up so other people know that it is valuable and that they should watch it. And last but not least, please make sure that you are subscribed so you can be around for my next video. I love you always, and I will talk to you. I love you always, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.